Hello, my friend. Welcome back to the Mindset Check podcast. I'm your host, Mesha McKittrick. This is a podcast where I believe that as you take time for a mindset check, you have more power than you think you do. And where we also believe that one of the most productive things that we can do is to outsmart our brains. My friends, I've missed you. I missed our time in this space together, but I'm so grateful for what I was building while I was away. Creating the Power Up course was an incredible experience. It was one of those moments where you know that you're working with the divine and creating something that will be helpful for others. And, the women that were going through the course at the time that we were, doing the course and I was recording all of these lessons that are a part of the course as you do it in the future, right? Because the course content that I was creating is recorded, and then you'll still go through, if you want to do the Power Up course in the future, you still go through with a group. You have live group coaching, you have a group experience, but the lessons that were created last spring are the same lessons that you will get next fall. And I'm telling you, as I stood in that space of improving the course from what I have, given in the past, it was such a cool experience to be directed, really, to be inspired and for different things to be falling in my lap and to be honestly what I feel like was divinely guided in that space. And it was so cool. I love throwing that credit back to exactly where it came from. And the women who took this course, what they have said to me, while we've been on our own coaching calls, the one-on-ones, for me, it was worth every single minute. And worth every single minute that I spent with them one-on-one to watch their growth and to witness their gratitude for the ways that their life shifted. So I'm sharing that with you because maybe there's a little seed that can be planted inside of your heart that helps create a desire for you to step into a role where you're able to sort of wake up to the life that you're living in a different way that helps you to live it from an even more powerful standpoint, right? When we really know how to let go of all the things that are not serving us, the ways that our brain automatically feeds us thoughts and beliefs and ways of acting that are actually hurting us, and to set those things completely free and to step into, what we do want in our life, and then even further, what we want to create in our life, there's incredible freedom. So I wanted to share that with you to say, I missed you. I was doing great things while I was gone. And these same things will be available for you in the fall if it's something that feels like it calls to you. And one more thing before we jump into the podcast, I just want to share with you something that I've been loving. My sister-in-law, who is the ultimate recommender of books, I'm telling you, she called me to tell me, Kate, this is a book you need to consume right away. And she actually told me, she's a reader. She loves to actually hold a book in her hands, which I love as well. But I do find that I have more time when I can listen to books. And I've really loved lately where they have stepped up in the arena of producing a book to be really entertaining with different voices and, like a theatrical production, but in the arena of just listening. It's so fascinating. So the book that she called to tell me to download and consume right away is called Theo of Golden. Theo of Golden. And it was a fantastic story that was incredibly heartwarming. And it gives a nod to the idea that we become better people as we learn and grow and experience life, literally making you want to become a better person. So if you're looking for a really great book that honestly, I think it would be great for like families to listen to, maybe not super young kids, but if you could get your teenager on board or your young adult on board, they would be better off for hearing this story. It's a really fantastic story about an elderly man who just, finally gets it right. Let's just say that. He really, really becomes this incredible person. And it's something that blesses the lives of all the people who he comes across in his path. So it's a fantastic book for inspiration, and it leaves you with the desire to love your own people even better. All right, now let's jump into the podcast. I'm super excited to share this one with you. The other day, I was chatting with my sister about a concept that I used to teach my children as they were growing up. And she was wanting to get it right so that she could now teach it to hers as she is parenting and moving through, finding the interesting ways that we can help ignite their brain to think about life the way that we desire them to actually think about it. And when I was thinking about this trick, this hack that I used to pull up and use with my kids, I thought of just a couple others that I thought were like really incredible that I was able to learn along my parenting journey to be able to, teach them and to help mold them and to help them grow, right, into the people that we want them to be. It's kind of like, I loved the concept of the idea that my job is to help you be a better man today, to become a man, to grow into that. I raised boys. So maybe you're also, talking about raising women and incredible women, right? But the concept is like, what can we install or instill in them that helps them be better? And so I was thinking about that. I was thinking about these different concepts that I taught them. And I was thinking about how wonderful they actually are to be able to apply them to ourselves as well and our adult brains, right? That can help when we apply these same concepts to us. It helps us hack into our own brains in a way, right? We're really, as parents, helping our kids manage their behavior, their emotions, their motivation, and all of these things. But we need all those things as adults too. So I thought that in that vein that I would share with you these things, these incredible concepts that I keep coming back to that helped me raise my boys, that I also love to just apply in my own life. So I'll share them with you. There are 4. The first one is a Japanese term, and the term is also a concept. I love the Japanese people for the way that they choose one word and it sort of encompasses or represents like an entire philosophy in one word. So the word is kigatsuku. And kigatsuku means noticing what needs to be done and just doing it. And doing it without being asked. So in other words, kind of like do what you know to do when you know you should do it. And whenever I would teach this to my kids, sometimes I would just look in their face and say kigatsuku. The other day, I'm laughing because the other day, one of my kids is, he's a teenager now, and he knows that he needs to create the proper environment for his fish. Okay. But sometimes it takes a little bit of reminding, which is, maddening because he's old enough, right? And they're old enough at 5 to know certain things and at 10 to know certain things, right? So he's old enough. So instead of telling him to, pay attention to his fish, I just wrote the word kigatsuku on a Post-it note and stuck it on his fishbowl. And he knows exactly what that means, right? So it's kind of like when you see something really obvious and it's almost demeaning to remind them, like, hey, you need to do this. You just look in their eyeballs and you say kigatsuku. And it gives them that moment to sort of check in and to go, oh, yeah, I do need to do that. And it teaches them to be a certain person. It teaches them to be someone who acts when they see something that needs acting upon, right? And so when we apply this to our own selves, often we can ignore the nudges, the same nudges that happen inside of us, right? And we often will ignore those things. And so if we use this same term for ourselves, kigatsuku, just do what you know needs to be done next, right? What do you need to do without somebody looking over your shoulder to parent you? And when you really allow that question to sink deeply without that, like, sort of like, don't ask me that. I don't want to know. I don't want to do that thing. When we get real with ourselves and we can say, okay, what do I know I need to do today? Our whole life changes. When we honor what that inner voice is telling us to do, instead of negotiating with it, it's a game changer for our lives. I love what Jeff Fisher said. He said, discipline is doing what you really don't want to do so you can do what you really want to do. Isn't that a great quote? So the term kigatsuku, maybe you write it on a little Post-it note and stick it on your mirror for a week, just to help you remember to do what you know you need to do without being asked to do it, right? Without somebody knocking down your door and saying, hey, get this thing done. Hopefully that's a tip that you love, that you'll apply to yourselves, and if you are in a parenting role, that you can roll over and use with your kids. The next concept is 2 words, and it is simply try again. Sometimes when my kids, did something when they were out of line, or, something they knew they shouldn't do, or if they spoke to me in a way that they knew like they shouldn't use that tone, I would just look in their eyeballs and say, try again, try again. And I love the concept of try again because it does recognize that there was something that wasn't like fully who you could be. But it's not like, hey, let's dig in and really highlight that and make you into some bad person because you stepped out of line somehow, right? It's instead of like shaming, we simply just push a little reset button. Try again. Okay, let's get back up on our feet and do something different. Let's do it a different way. It's like, hey, here's already a clean slate with just 2 words. Try again. And then they can say, Mom, will you please, whatever. Mom, can I, whatever. They can just speak kinder or do something better, right? It's another idea of like checking your behavior, but also with a clean slate. And so I love the idea when we apply it to ourselves, because sometimes we see that we're doing something and then we waste a whole bunch of time kind of getting after ourselves about it. And instead of spiraling, I love the idea of immediately giving ourselves momentum. Simply using a 2-word mindset shift. It closes the idea of like the way that we don't want life to go, and it propels us towards what we do want in our life. I love the quote by Brené Brown. She says, redemption doesn't come from being perfect, but from having the courage to try again. Isn't that so beautiful? So I hope that you use these 2 words potentially in your parenting, and also especially with your own self, to acknowledge ways that you can improve while you're in motion, while you're moving forward, right? And just being gentle with yourself at the same time. All right, concept number 3. This was such a freedom moment. And I'm going to tell you, it's not something that came from myself. I literally showed up to a soccer game. I've got a kid on my hip. We're there to watch another kid. And I don't know, my husband's coaching, who knows what, right? A little bit of a chaotic, probably Saturday. And I sat down next to my friend Danielle and I took a great big breath. And I looked at her in her eyes and I was like, worst parenting moment ever. And she said, no, no way. she let me tell her the thing, but she said, listen, all you have to do is look at them and say, we can both do better. And I I loved the freedom and the space that she gave me in being able to hear what I felt like was one of my worst parenting moments, and to be able to say, been there, done that. Like, I've been there, and look, they could have done better, the kid, and you could have done better, and you both know it. And so simply looking at each other and just saying, we can both do better. And even sometimes later, when it's time to like reconcile or to really look in each other's eyes, instead of just saying like, look, you owe me an apology, and then like, I owe you an apology too, or something like that. Like, it's kind of like this way of acknowledging that you were both in the wrong and that you're simply made of better stuff, that like you can handle yourselves better. I love the way that it helps us drop the need to be right. It helps us to acknowledge when our circumstances and our responses both needed work, and we were able to step into a space where we could both recognize our own improvement versus one person really drilling in on the other person and what they did wrong. So I feel like that's really important, to be able to give each other space in, your situations, in your conflicts, in experiences that don't go the way that you want them to go, both in parenting and with yourself. Marcus Aurelius said, whenever you're about to find fault with someone, ask yourself, what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I'm about to criticize? It is crazy to me how, as human beings, we have such a natural inclination to find fault with other people. And if we really get real about ourselves, we wouldn't want other people to be so freely finding our faults. So I love that quote. I love the concept of, simply saying we can both do better, and acknowledging that and allowing that to shape you for a time when you're either interacting with your kid or with anyone in your life, or even inside of your own brain. By like looking at yourself, do you have a name for your alter ego? The side of you that like shows up and you're like, okay, look, I got to put you in check. That girl, that girl for me is named Janice. And so maybe I would talk to Janice and say, look, Janice, we can both do better. And it's like Mesha talking to Mesha. You know what I mean? Like, you got this, and you know better. We can do better. All right, now moving on to number 4. Number 4 was such an incredible parenting hack that, quite frankly, I wish I knew sooner. I don't know how I came about it. I just started using this hack when my kids were, gosh, I want to say probably the oldest was maybe 13 and the youngest was, 5. I don't know, something in those age ranges. But, have you ever given a task to your kids and then they come back and they're like, yeah, so-and-so didn't even do anything, I did all of it, or whatever, right? Like, especially in the arena of like, I need you guys to clean up the playroom, or I need you to, like, think about situations like that. Well, one day I was like, look, I'm going to set up a time-lapse video. So I'm going to prop my phone up, put the phone on, and push record. And time-lapse, I'm sure that you know what it is. It's recording the whole time, but it condenses like a 30-minute segment of time into like 3 minutes or something like that, right? So you can really watch it and watch fast forward movement, and you can see who is doing what. So I can see, oh, kid A is cleaning up the Lego table, and kid B keeps working on that other situation that's a mess, and you can really see everybody working. But the thing is if they know they're being watched, then none of them sit out, because obviously when we watch the time lapse back, if kid A is like doing all the work and kid B is just sitting around, then they're going to keep having jobs, right? Well, kid A is totally off the hook. So anyway, I would give this, and I would give this to all 3 of my kids. I'd set up the camera and I would push time lapse and I would say, let me know when you're done and I'm going to review the video. So it would make them go faster. It kept them accountable. And it was just sort of like a way of having a witness. I love this concept for kids because it really helps them to be accountable. But I think that there's a way that we can use this in our adulting, space as well with our adult brains. Sometimes we think we know how we spend our time, how we spend our energy, sometimes, right, how we spend our attention. But when we actually track it, we get surprised and we're like, whoa, like that was a lot. There's such thing as a break, but that was like, a derailment and something that didn't get me anywhere, right? And there's a time to be productive. And when we're being productive and we're really setting ourselves to a task, allowing ourselves to, sort of be accountable with anything that helps us sort of quote time lapse, whether it's a video that we're making of ourselves. Honestly, maybe that feels really gratifying. Like if you're trying to clean up a space, to really do that and then be able to like see yourself, knowing the camera's going, that you'll be able to watch back how quickly you were able to clean up that space. But sometimes even to dedicate an entire day to time lapsing, right? So like every 30 minutes, you keep a log of like what you did. And if you're really doing a lot, that can get exhausting, even writing it down. So hopefully you feel that because you're getting so much done. But, like being able just to like, even if you have like a to-do list, maybe you mark off all of the green checks you got done between 9 and 10. And then with a pink checks, you do everything you got done between 10 and 11 or whatever, so that you can really see how the momentum of a day that is built with time lapse feels, right? It's really cataloging not just what you're planning, but what you actually are doing. There's a quote by Glody Kikonga that says, "You are your discipline. The person who shows up consistently will always outperform the person who waits for inspiration." So I love that quote simply because it helps us to understand, like, it doesn't matter how many beautiful ideas you have. What matters is what you actually do, the action that you actually take. And I think that as we become adults and we don't have someone looking over our shoulder, whether it's a teacher or a parent or some sort of a leader that kind of is like, oh, you're doing good work, you're getting good things done. Like we kind of have to parent ourselves in that arena. And that is part of, adulting, is learning how to keep yourself accountable. So figuring out ways that help you and that actually feel rewarding, the same way that kids might feel if they were able to look back through a time lapse and see like, holy moly, like look what we did. Like in that much time, we did a ton of work and we were able to, have that reward or that feeling. Sometimes it's just knowing how you work. Like for me, at the end of a project, the finished product for me it's like shiny, glittery, like hooray, because that's the ultimate reward for me. So I can push through a lot to be able to see the finished product. I'm a very visual and also feeling in the space, like how it feels to be in that space of things being accomplished or organized or done or whatever. And sometimes even at the end of the day, something that I really love to do is to kind of catalog what I accomplished, especially on the days that feel like, wait, where did today go? And having a moment with myself to kind of be like, no, I did accomplish a lot of things. Here's what I accomplished. Because I think taking the time to really recognize sort of in this way, it helps us to acknowledge ourselves, sort of give ourselves that pat on the back, helps us to show up stronger the next day. And so you kind of just want to look at your own life and say, okay, how do I operate? What is the best sort of quote time lapse procedure that I can apply to my own life? And sometimes they're just little check-ins. It's like that, keeping track during the day of everything that you're doing. I love how much like having an appointment helps me push to get something done. So like if I know I have an appointment in an hour, then I'll be like, I only have an hour. I've got to get so much done in this hour. And it really pushes me. And then when the appointment time comes and I'm like at that appointment, I'm like, phew, like that feels good to have accomplished those things. So, just the idea, just trying to like throw a lot of things at you to help you really have an internal conversation with your own self about being the creator of your life and being able to be accountable to your own self. When you are in charge of creating what you want, it actually gives you the power that allows you to choose the life that you desire. Carl Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." And so really looking at your own self and allowing yourself not to get like down on, yourself for not doing, but recognizing what you are doing and sort of setting out to do something and then being a witness of that really can help you continue to formulate a mode of action that feels good and right for you. All right, so we talked about Kigatsuku, about try again, about we can both do better, and about time lapse, and how effective they are in our parenting and how effective they are when we apply them to our own life. They're really about creating some structure for your brain, whether you're doing it as a parent, as a gift to your children, or if you're doing it as a gift to yourself as an adult, to really help yourself, find that grace, that productivity, being patient and gentle with your own self, or as a parent with these tips, and really being able to look at yourself and say, what if I was my own best parent? What kind of concepts would I want to instill in my brain? And what am I doing to help myself in that space? Because the best parent that you will ever have is actually yourself. So check in and find that as you use hacks and provide your brain with structure and all of this space to be, gentle and encouraging yourself towards momentum, you are raising yourself right. And in that, you have more power than you think you do. All right, my friend, I hope you had an incredible takeaway from today's episode, whether it's in your parenting or in parenting your own self. If you can think of someone in your life that would love this episode, then share it with them. That helps the podcast grow. Also, take a moment to make sure that you're subscribed and that you rate and review the podcast. Before we go, I want to share a quote with you from Carl Rogers, and it says, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change." Until next time, my friend.